Welcome to the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network.
Yes, hello again. I'm John Jeffers here at the Jeffers Brief, only on Contra Radio Network and KYAH 540 AM, Utah's Talk Authority. And it is true. I know. You're wondering, is it true? And I'm saying it is. All right. Thank you. Hey, one thing I want to start off with before we get going. I've neglected to do this for a while, and I always keep forgetting to do it. I want to do it now. Yes, I'm highly caffeinated, and I'm ready to scream, if necessary, to get my point across. First of all, some of you are wondering about, does CRN really go around the planet? Do we get downloads from, around the world? Yes, we do. And one of the hot spots is Canada. Right by the United States is Canada, whose downloads, I don't know what's going on in Canada. I've got an idea, and I think it's got to do with Stephanos. Thank you, Steph. I know. It's got to be you. Because I was looking at the stats, the download stats from geographic locations. And guess what? In Canada, now I don't know. Last month we had a break in Canada, and it started getting bigger and bigger. This month we're even getting more. Like in New Brunswick, I'll tell you, they're the leading Canada provinces. The Yukon, and we even have one listener in Ontario, which is pretty liberal. But New Brunswick, we're glad to have you on there. If you don't know where New Brunswick is, it's right on the border of the United States, right northeast border of Maine. And you look at the size of the province, it's smaller than just about all the other provinces. But we got more listeners there. And the Yukon, I'm surprised we don't have more out of the Yukon. But it's coming. It's working great. It is. And in Australia, we only have one. Queensland. That's where we're getting most of our downloads, out of Queensland, Australia. In Australia. And of course, the United States, Virginia. The Commonwealth of Virginia. We got over 1,500 downloads just from that particular place. Followed by, get this, Connecticut. You talk about a blue state, that's Connecticut. We've got, they're second. New York is third. California, well, we've always had something of California, but now we're starting to really move in California. And Illinois, the tyranny state. We got Florida, Colorado, Washington, Idaho, Utah. We should have more in Utah because of KYAH. Come on, guys. I know you're listening. Wisconsin, just north of me, behind the Cheddar Curtain where Austin is. Massachusetts. Now, I know that in Massachusetts, our listeners have got to be in the western half of the state because the eastern half is all liberal. The western half is more conservative, but they always keep getting outvoted. But I'm sure that's where most of our listeners are coming in on. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, the Republic of Texas, Maine, New Jersey, Arizona. We should have more out of Arizona. And I blame the two crazy guys down there. If you have not listened to the Prepper guy, Mark Boyle, Conservative Underground, Don Lowry, you got to listen to their stuff. If you're interested in what's really going on down there, what they see, what's going on, and you don't want the filter from the mainstream media, listen to the two crazy guys. They live in free America. They do. You want to know what's going on? They'll tell you. And they're not going to hold back. They're going to tell you exactly, so give them a listen. North Carolina, our good friend Tim down there. Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, South Carolina, Indiana, Ohio, Missouri, Oregon, Arkansas. We've got one in Arkansas. We should have more in Arkansas. Minnesota, interestingly enough. Tennessee, we should have more than that. Isn't that right, Mr. Ellis? West Virginia, and others. So just an idea of what kind of we're looking at. Now, here's something that's really interesting. We got our first download out of Kenya on the continent of Africa. We've got our first one there. Welcome, Kenya. Glad you're here. Join us. South Africa. We've had a listener there. I know we have one listener in South Africa. His name's Dieter. He's always here and there, but for some reason we've seen an uptick in downloads from South Africa. Very interestingly enough, if I could ever get these guys to call in on Skype, one of those, because if you don't know what's going on in South Africa, it's pathetic. And the mainstream media is shutting them out intentionally. It is true. And of course, in the UK, we've got 6. And our good friend, Porky Wheel, you know who you are. Only 2. He's been sloughing off in the last 6 months. I got to get on him and make him feel bad. I have to hurt his feelings. But that's just some of the reach we have. That's just for this month. So I wanted to put that out there for you because it's interesting. I've always wanted to sit there and say, look, I appreciate all of you listening and downloading on Contra Radio Network. Tell your Patriot and Prepper friends to listen to Contra Radio Network. We have a slew of different types of programming, none of which are liberal, and will never, ever, 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 I will not run anything that's pro-Democratic Party. I will not. They have enough media outlets. They don't need mine too. If you're a liberal, welcome. Look, people, listeners, do yourselves a favor. I was at a Trump watch party when he was in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and I ran into a guy, a convert, not a true believer, a convert from the Democratic Party. Says, I used to be liberal, now I'm a conservative. And we were talking, and I asked him, let me ask you something. I said, if you were to get into an argument with a conservative, would that ever change your view? He goes, no. I said, okay. So it just gives validation to my point is, if you run in to a liberal, a Democrat, a socialist, you don't need to argue with them, because no matter what you say, no matter how right you are, you'll never change their mind. The only person that's going to change their mind is them. If it's possible. It is possible. But save your breath. Save your time. Say, and don't get aggravated. Say what you got to say. Walk away. Be done with it. Now, for those of you that must engage, that find they must do this, well, okay, that's cool. I get it. Here's how you argue. Now, have you heard the latest nonsense from the left saying socialism failed in all these other countries because it wasn't done right? Okay. This is how you argue with them. These are the points you got to hit. All right? Ready? Ready? Okay. First of all, you have to realize what your opponent's saying. If they're saying that, well, we're going to do it differently, okay, fine. What part of the socialism are you going to do differently? Because the bottom line is, no matter what government you choose, there always has to be leaders. In socialism, the leaders are the workers. So you can't have all the workers trying to make decisions on matters of state. Mainly because, and this is true even here, how many of us are really experts in foreign policy, in tax law? How do taxes really work? How, that it's the minutia there. So you ask, what part isn't going to work? What part is you going to change? Now, this is the idea. When the left says that, what they're talking about is the pure utopian perfect socialist society, and they're comparing it to the capitalist reality of society. What you have to do is argue back with the version of the true capitalist utopian society. In other words, you have to compare apples to apples. You can't compare apples to pears, apples to oranges. So if they're going to say, well, socialism works because of this, this, and this, in that case, what they're in their mind is that they are comparing the true socialist society, the perfect socialist society. You've got to be able to argue back the true capitalist society, the perfect capitalist society. And the bottom line is this: no matter how you look at it, capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than socialism ever will. Yes, on paper, socialism looks great. However, in practice, it's undoable. It just can't be done because it's always going to be corrupted. And that is going to be true with capitalist societies. There's no true government form that isn't going to be corrupted in some way, fashion. You follow me? Okay. But and that's all you got to do. You got to know your subject. And your subject is really simple. You have to make sure that they're talking about either socialism in reality, which doesn't work, because we know that from history, from different countries, versus socialism as the perfect society, which is all theoretical anyways. Just like a true capitalist society is theoretical. You gotta make sure you're talking the same language, the same way. So that way, and then when you're done, you walk away. You're done. Don't sit there and scream and yell. One thing I learned after 26 years of policing, and it drives me crazy when I see some of the videos out there with some of the police officers out there. Don't yell at people, because when you yell at people, you know what they do? They automatically turn off. They don't listen. It's much less, it's kind of like your parents. When your parents were yelling at you, did you really listen? Or did you just kind of nod your head, yeah, and go, it's the same throughout society. If you want to make a point, talk, don't yell. If somebody wants to talk over you and interrupt you, let them. Because all they're doing is admitting defeat. That's all. And if somebody's really truly interested in having a debate, they'll let you talk. Follow? Yes? Okay. There we go. All right. If I was on the Two Crazy Guys episode earlier this evening, give them a listen. Also, we got Win on the Dope Farm report. And they're saying Dope Farm. Dope Farm. Dope stands for Data on Previous Engagement. Big, Win is a big gun rights guy, homesteader, great guy. Give this show a listen. You're going to love it, I promise. It's quick and easy. He doesn't spend time like Don, Mark, and I do, because we got to take our shows and put them on KYH, and we got to make them 59 minutes and 50 seconds long, period. That's why we got to go an hour. All right. Also, Mumble It. I'm going to be moving CRN to a new subscription. We're not leaving Podbean, but we're going to be going to Mumble It TV. Why? Because, well, the fact of the matter is YouTube has kind of put the kibosh on CRN. You've heard shadow banning? That's what's happening. But that's okay. We'll go to Mumble It TV where we don't have to deal with that kind of stuff. If you're interested, look at mumblet.com. Good place. I like it. Anybody can go there. But the difference is this. You're not going to face a gulag. Oh, we don't like what you said because you violated a rule we haven't invented yet, and it's a community standards, and we don't like it, so you're 30 days in the gulag. You don't get to talk anymore. Really? Is that how free speech works? It does on Facebook. Regardless, doesn't matter. Go to Mumble It. They're not going to... Same thing for Gab. Say whatever you want. Say whatever you want to say. You're not going to be put in the gulag. Too many of you are too afraid to leave Facebook because you go, well, my friends or family are on there. Okay. I'm not saying you can't. Just be prepared for what comes with it. And you know what I'm talking about. You don't think they're listening to your conversations? You don't think they're monitoring where you go online? They do. They are. They are. But anyways, that's another story. All right. What do we got? Okay, here's a good one. I don't know if you watched the clown show last night. Part 1. Part 2's tonight. But candidate Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, this goofy fool quotes the communist Che Guevara while he's in Miami. It's true. It is so true, and I'm going to tell you about it in a second. I need more coffee. All right. It's just ridiculous. But this is from Sundance. over at The Last Refuge. Really good stuff. You cannot make this stuff up. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, he's campaigning in Miami with a bunch of Service Employee International Union workers. And somehow, the doofus from New York thinks it would be a good thing at the Miami airport to cheer Hasta la Victoria Siempre. It's a very famous rallying cry from communist leader Che Guevara as he led the murder of thousands of Latinos. Now, many Latinos in Miami-Dade fled from various communist regimes in Cuba and Central America. And many Miami residents actually have relatives who were killed by Guevara's political terror teams. So for Latinos to hear a New Yorker shout, Hasta la Victoria Siempre, generates an automatic response that is seriously angry. If you don't know the community, you just cannot emphasize how big a boneheaded deal that is. Oh yeah, he said it. So yes, the New York limo liberal crowd and the Antifa loons loves them some Che Guevara. However, in the vast majority of the real Latino communities, especially Miami-Dade, even mentioning that name is likely to trigger someone to kick your ass, and I'm not kidding. So apparently, after a few hours, someone told Bill de Blasio how stupid that was, and the doofus sends out a tweet saying he didn't know, which is strangely even funnier. If you don't know what it means, why in the hell are you even saying it? So he tweets out, I did not know the phrase I used in Miami today was associated with Che Guevara, and I did not mean to offend anyone who heard it that way. I certainly apologize for not understanding that history. I only meant it as a literal message to the striking airport workers that I believe they would be victorious in their strike. Really? You don't believe me? Listen.
And de Blasio's visit to that picket line stirring a bit of controversy with what he said, right?
It did. You know, Cory Booker was there first thing in the morning. Bill de Blasio came later in the day. And I think we got a little bit of sound as he was sort of riling up the workers. He said this, and let's play it.
I'm going to give you a prediction. Are you ready for a prediction? Yes. The day is coming soon here in Miami-Dade where you will win this struggle once and for all. Once and for all. You will win. Hasta la victoria siempre.
Now, hasta la victoria siempre, not a good phrase, until victory always. That is a famous phrase from Che Guevara. You know, now in South Florida, you don't want to be invoking the name of Che Guevara. Right. It's insensitive. There are a number of people here who had family members killed by Che. It also hurts Democrats in general because Republicans, and the president in particular, continue to try to want to paint Democrats as socialists. Citing Che Guevara is not a good thing. Now, late this afternoon, matter of fact, just a couple minutes ago, we got Bill de Blasio sent out a tweet apologizing. I think we have it.
Well, there you go. I'm not making this up. You can't make this up. You just can't. All right. Back to my favorite subject. I don't even say favorite because I'm heartbroken and sick over it, and I get angry every time I think about this. You know, we're still dealing, the Democrats in D.C., you know, what the hell is wrong with them? They don't get a do-over. You can have Mueller come in and subpoena, testify. He's not going to change his testimony for his report. The document speaks for itself, period. Now, details are beginning to emerge about the agreement between Democrats and Robert Mueller surrounding his closely constructed upcoming testimony. And it is closely constructed, believe me. The baseline here is very important. Now, we've outlined throughout, and especially since the Democrats won the midterm election, the Mueller team is closely coordinating with Pelosi, Schiff, Nadler, and Cummings Group about how best to continue the efforts of the Weissman and Mueller small group within the DOJ and the FBI. The connective tissue between the House Democrats and the small group within the FBI, which is Weissman and Mueller, is the lawfare group. Now, as noted in the text message between Page and Strzok, and as noted in the hiring of former FBI legal counsel James Baker, and as noted in the Nadler-Schiff hiring of law firm members for their staff, the coordination between the seditious group and politicians is crystal clear. Now, conservative Treehouse advised everyone to pay close attention to the details and the agreements between Pelosi, Schiff, and Nadler and the corrupt team led by Mueller. Everything they are doing is based on a coordinated plan between ideologues. The effort to remove President Trump is one long continuum. It has not stopped. the Mueller testimony is just another part of this process. Now here's some of the transparently sketchy details as outlined by staff leaks to NBC. Remember, these legislative staff members are part of the lawfare group. In other words, they're hired headhunters. They are true believers, fanatics of the Democratic Socialist Party. Now, after months of negotiations, former special counsel Mueller has agreed to testify both before the House Intel and Judiciary Committees on July 17th. But his willingness still comes with some parameters, according to congressional aide with knowledge of the arrangement with Mueller's office. There will be 2 open sessions with Mueller and 2 closed sessions with his staff. Pay attention on how these are being structured. 2 open sessions with limited questions and only 1 opportunity for questions by each member of the committee. So the House Judiciary Committee will have to choose which of its members are able to ask Mueller questions during its open session. Unlike the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, the Judiciary Committee is quite large, almost double in size. So only 22 of its 41 members will be present for the open session. The details of the agreement between the committees and Mueller's office are still being worked out, and a second congressional aide said it could still change. So, the Judiciary Committee members who do not get to ask questions of Mueller will still be able to attend a closed session with Mueller's staff following the open testimony, where they will be able to ask about material that was redacted from the public eye. Notice the closed session without Mueller. This is Andrew Weissman and the key members of his investigative unit. This is the heart of the real corruption. Mueller is only the figurehead. Weissman is the real lead, and the closed-door session allows the Democrats to use the Weissman testimony. Each member of the Intel Committee will be able to ask Mueller questions for 5 minutes in an open session before following up in a similar closed session. Limiting the exposure of Mueller is a way for Pelosi, Schiff, and Nadler to mitigate the risk. Only 1 round of questions. So in the closed sessions, the Intelligence Committee will have access to the unredacted version of Volume 1 of the Mueller report, which focuses on the question of collusion and conspiracy with the Russian government, while the Judiciary Committee will have access to the unredacted version of Volume 2, which focuses on obstruction of justice. Nice trick here. Notice the closed-door sessions are not classified. This is a way, follow me now, this is the way for Pelosi, Schiff, and Nadler to get the material, the innuendo and suspicion, injected into their narrative. You follow me? The unredacted content will be discussed. All means of the investigative pathways, including the maliciously corrupt false trails, will be put into discussion, and the politicians are free to talk about any and all content of that discussion because it is not classified. Neither committee will have access to any information that is redacted for the purpose of protecting information provided to the grand jury. Although there will be no transcript of the closed sessions, they are not considered classified, so members may discuss what they heard. The first congressional aide said members of both committees will not be restricted to what they can ask Mueller, but they do expect he will largely stick to the information he provided in the report. Like I said, he's not going to change it now. He can't. The document speaks for itself. And because he signed it under penalty of perjury, he changes it now, well, that makes him a perjurer. So without a transcript, there'll be no factual record of the testimony behind closed doors. So again, this allows Pelosi, Schiff, and Nadler and staff to make any claim about the content regardless of the level of falsity, and there's no factual way for rebuttal. This is by purposeful design. They're lying. They're setting up so they could lie to you. Are you surprised? And if so, why? Again, the use of Robert Mueller as part of the soft coup effort. Mueller was selected for this role by the internal DOJ FBI group who carried out the investigation. The real scheme is by the team directly under Mueller, and Mueller gets to play the role of willfully blind to the scheme. Again, by design. Mueller didn't select his team. The pre-existing team of corrupt officials selected it for him. So there you have it. Now you know what's going to happen on July 17th. Now, this is Alan Dershowitz. I like Alan Dershowitz. I do. I don't like what he has to say. So, if here, we'll let Professor Dershowitz tell you himself in his own words.
Here now with reaction to all of this, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter, author of the #1 bestseller, The Russia Hoax, author of the foreword to the published volume of the Mueller report, Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz. Thank you all. Greg, let's go. Those are 9 powerful questions. I summed them up, but you have a lot more detail.
Well, the most important question was the last one. On May 16, 2016, Mueller's interviewing to replace Comey. Isn't it true that you discussed with the president in the Oval Office with 2 witnesses there the reasons why the president fired James Comey? And if the answer is yes, we did discuss it, that means under the regulations, Mueller was required to disqualify himself and say, I can't take the job because he's a witness in his own case. You can't be a prosecutor and a chief witness simultaneously. So that's very important. But at the top of the list, as you saw, the most important thing is, how could you investigate Russian collusion and interference in the election without investigating how Hillary Clinton's campaign and the DNC paid for Russian disinformation and fed it to the media and the FBI to influence the election? I mean, it's just astonishing to me that there's just a passing reference to the dossier in Mueller's 448 pages.
You know, Professor, civil liberties are an important point. Greg raises a good question. He did investigate FARA violations. He had a very broad mandate. And he did investigate, let's see, taxi medallions and loan applications and, decades-old taxes that weren't paid. By the way, pay your taxes and don't lie on a loan application. Dumb idea. But with all of that said, how do you then miss the dossier issue? How do you then miss lying to a FISA court judge to take away the civil liberties of not only one individual, but spy on a presidential campaign in a multitude of ways, including lying and obtaining a FISA warrant under premeditated false pretenses, committing fraud because you were warned completely that it was unverifiable?
Well, the irony is that all the questions the Democrats want to ask him, he's not entitled to answer. He can't answer any questions involving the investigation of President Trump or his campaign, because that was the essence of the report. They decided there was no case for prosecution, and Justice Department regulations and traditions say that's it. You've decided not to prosecute. Don't do it, Comey did. Don't talk about what might have been. Don't say that she was sloppy with her use of the emails. And don't say that President Trump might have A, B, C, D. You've already said it. But the irony is the questions the Republicans want to ask about all the issues that you and Greg have mentioned are completely appropriate because they're not in the report. And they're entitled to ask him, why isn't it in the report? Why did you pick these people to be in the investigation? What about the Pfizer? What about the Steele dossier? Anything that's not in the report, he can answer.
You were very clear. He does not have the right to say, I won't answer that either.
No, he can't say he won't answer that. He's under subpoena, and if the Republicans ask him that question, even though he's in the minority, he has to answer. Now, if he refuses to answer via vote, and they won't vote to hold him in contempt because the Democrats have a majority, but he's obligated as a lawyer and officer of the court to answer any relevant question because he's under oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So I think the Democrats, I'm a Democrat. I hate to see the Democrats shoot themselves in the foot, but they've boxed themselves in.
Who would have
They're going to
ever
get
thought
no
the day would
answers
come?
that help them.
Sean Hannity and Professor Dershowitz, although we agree on so much about Israel and the Middle East, et cetera, we really do, but we're fighting for, let's see, civil liberties. You can't unmask American citizens without a warrant. You can't commit a fraud on a FISA court. And
but let me tell you what else you can't do. You can't have prosecutors going in front of Congress and explaining why they didn't prosecute the average American. If you have the average American businessman, there's an investigation and he's not prosecuted, Congress now is trying to establish a precedent whereby they can call any prosecutor and say, oh, you didn't charge him, why not? What about this evidence? Tell us about the other evidence. That undercuts the presumption of innocence. It undercuts the traditions of the Justice Department, and it undercuts the rule of law. Today it's the Republicans that are the victims. Tomorrow it's the Democrats. The day after tomorrow it's you and me. Any American can be subject to this if the Democrats establish a precedent.
Hold it. Did you already said today it's the Republicans, tomorrow's the Democrats. After that, it's you and I. If they can do it to them, they're going to do it to us. This is fundamentally wrong, and this is what Professor Dershowitz is talking about. All right, get back to it.
Allowing a prosecutor to testify about why he didn't charge somebody with a crime.
I know the media mob, Schiff, who we know. By the way, we have him on tape colluding with Russians to get dirt on Donald Trump. We actually have the tape. What did the naked compromise? That naked picture naked Trump. We have those pictures. And I know you like that, Professor. But Sarah, as we go through this here, the Professor and Greg are raising the best points. This is really, the general feeling. Republicans are salivating now to get him in that chair.
Oh, they are. Lawmakers have informed me that they're looking forward to interviewing and speaking with Robert Mueller. I think one question that is vitally important, and Greg and Alan both brought it up, is the fact of why didn't he expand? Because he had the latitude. He had the latitude to look into all things Russia. Why didn't he look into the people that Christopher Steele allegedly got this information from, which was Russians, according to Christopher Steele? A large part of the dossier was disinformation planted by the Russians. So the question that I would have is, Mr. Mueller, did you at all look into the other side, Christopher Steele's contacts? By the way, Christopher Steele is a foreign spy. Did you look into those contacts with Russians that he had that helped feed the information into this faulty dossier? That's going to be significantly important.
All right, there you go. That was from Hannity. I don't always agree with everything Hannity says. And like all good conservatives, we should not always be marching in lockstep with what we hear. We shouldn't, because we're independent thinkers. What we do understand, we all have a common belief as patriots, and that includes you preppers too, is a shared belief in our Constitution and our civil liberties. We have a shared love of that. Other than that, let me tell you something. Listen to Mark Boyle, the prepper guy. Mark and I differ on the economy. Mark says it's heading for a collapse, there's a big bubble, da-da-da. I'm saying the economy is doing well. I'm glad to see it. I've got no problem with it. But that's okay. It doesn't mean Mark's wrong or I'm right. What it means is we have a different view on it, and that's okay. I don't want to see us as conservatives marching in lockstep. No, I don't want to. So that's where that is. That's what I think on that. And I want you to think the same way. I do. So Congress needs to skip the BS and get right to the heart of the issue. Now here we go. 5 minutes of rapid fire questions for Mueller on this subject. On May 16th, 2017, were you applying to become the FBI director? Why did you go to the White House? When did Rod Rosenstein contact you about going to the White House? When did Rod Rosenstein first contact you about becoming a special counsel? Did you speak to any members of the DOJ or FBI prior to going to the White House? Were there conversations about a possible special counsel position prior to May 16th, 2017? Were you aware President Trump was under investigation prior to your conversation of May 16th with President Trump? Were you aware of the nature of the investigation prior to May 16th, 2017? Were you aware of the possibility of being appointed special counsel? Did you take any recording devices into the Oval Office meeting? Did you own the cell phone you left in the Oval Office on May 16th, 2017? Between the afternoon Oval Office meeting and the next day announcement to the Gang of Eight by Rod Rosenstein and Andrew McCabe, when exactly did you agree to become special counsel? How did Rod Rosenstein contact you between May 16th, 2017 and early morning May 17th, 2017 about becoming special counsel? Did you immediately agree to become a special counsel when asked? How much time transpired between Rosenstein, or Rosenstein as I like to call him, asking you to become a special counsel and your acceptance of the position? So you see where this line of question goes. The dynamic here is pretty damned obvious if you ask me. So there you go. Now let's talk about Occam's razor in this scenario. It's a former FBI director meeting with the President of the United States in the Oval Office in the middle of one of the most consequential time periods in history, immediately after the firing of the former FBI director, with family and a network of friends curious as to the outcome, who is also communicating with the Deputy Attorney General, doesn't, quote, accidentally leave his cell phone in the Oval Office. That background allows people to absorb the intent and motivations of the special counsel investigation. How many people even know Robert Mueller interviewed President Donald Trump 6 days after the FBI launched a criminal obstruction of justice investigation and 10 months after the FBI launched the counterintelligence investigation? So that basically we're looking at this. The report shows there never was a Trump-Russia collusion conspiracy case to begin with. And with the report showing how most of Mueller's investigative time was spent gathering evidence for an obstruction case, and with new revelations from Andrew McCabe, John Dowd, and Mueller officials overlaid on the previous struck page text, we can now clearly reconcile the May 16, 2017 meeting between Trump, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosensnake, and Robert Mueller. You follow it now? All this good stuff. All of it. What else we got here? Oh, you know what? I'm so sick of this chick. I don't, you know, all right, here I am. Because of the way she acts, I hope France beats the U.S. women's soccer team. Megan Rapinoe. Miss Megan has been told that she's so special her entire life and how smart she is. But let me tell you something. When you go out there coloring your hair, playing soccer, and you know, you sit there and say, well, nobody can tell me that I can't play soccer, so I'm so good at it. You know, she's the one that's out there acting the fool, kneeling during the national anthem. Just, you know, I'm protesting the Trump. Really? You really think you're that special? She's co-captain of the U.S. women's national soccer team and a rabid hater of President Trump. Miss Rapinoe refuses to sing the U.S. national anthem, kneels during ceremonies to make her hatred for America visible, and grabs every microphone to tell the media about her politics in an effort to increase her resistance credentials. The age-old axiom is, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. So today, President Trump brilliantly responded to Miss Rapinoe. First, by calling out her arrogance and declaring victory before she even played the World Cup matches. And secondly, by inviting the entire team to the White House, win or lose. So the pressure is now upon Ms. Rapinoe. That pressure overlays a pre-existing, unstable, and tenuous psychological condition related to her tribal self-identification and commercial aspirations. This dynamic is a recipe for implosion, and it will not end well for her. Well, it won't. Oh, okay. So, getting back, I had to take a break because sometimes when we talk about the crap the Democrats are pulling in the House of Representatives, it just gets me crazy. I just had to do something different there. Well, here we go. So, here you go. So, it looks like the gang has a plan. This Nadler and Schiff pretend on the phony subpoena. So, according to Adam Schiff, Robert Mueller has agreed to deliver congressional testimony to a joint panel, which we talked about on July 17th. First, to frame the narrative for the appearance, Chairman Adam Schiff releases a letter signed by only Nadler and Schiff that threatened a subpoena. This subpoena letter is a prop for a pre-planned theatrical event. How do we know? Because only Schiff and Nadler signed it. No coordination with ranking members. It's an optic to set the cornerstone for a narrative that Schiff and Nadler want Mueller's appearance. Second, the joint committee approach is also part of the strategy. With 40 members from both committees, there will be intentionally only to be one round of questions. The size of the committee is part of the design to protect Robert Mueller, and those who follow politics closely will immediately note this motive. Knowing Mueller was in deep discussions with Schiff and Nadler to coordinate the appearance, the optic of the letter and the size of the committee are the first two immediate flares that indicate a staged performance is being set up. So 3 days ago, Sundance shared that Shifty, Pelosi, and Nadler have to be very careful with Mueller to avoid exposing the coordinated enterprise behind the 2-year Rosensnake, Weissman, and Mueller scheme. It will be interesting to see how they plan it out. Now we have a little bit more information. Watch what details surface over the next few weeks. Just like the letter the Joint Committee issues, I guarantee you we'll see the construct of a completely manufactured event, so keep watching. It's coming, people. Oh, in the meantime. Now, former HUD Secretary Julian Castro at the Clown Show Part 1, he said, reproductive justice should cover trans females too. Hey, Julian, trans females cannot get pregnant. And Representative Tulsi Gabbard boasts she has renounced the values her parents taught her. Well, she's so hungry for power now, she's willing to throw her family's values that she was taught under the bus. Oh, I'm not even going to talk about AOC. She's just an absolute disaster for the Democrats, and I do not want her or Representative Ilhan from Minnesota to be censored. I want them to keep blabbing and blabbing and blabbing. They are the gift that keeps on giving. It never ends. And then we got Representative Green, who wants to impeach Trump, now says Trump has a duty to enforce immigration laws, but he's not doing it. Really, Representative Green? You, sir, get the Golden Crack Pipe Award. Oh, I can't even stand it half the time listening to these people. It's just ridiculous. Every time you turn around, there's something else. What else we got going on here? Let's see what else we have here. U.S. women's soccer player chose God and withdrew from the national team over the jersey sporting rainbow colors. You know what? I don't care on the LGBTQ community. I don't care who they're having sex with. I don't care. I don't. And this idea that for some reason they have to go out there and tell everybody, look, I'm LGBTQ. Yeah. Who cares? I don't care. Now, we understand that Cory Booker tried to answer a question in Spanish at the part 1 of the circus, the clown circus. And I got to tell you, if you listen to the two crazy guys, Don Lowry, born in Panama, of American parents in the Canal Zone, he speaks fluent Spanish. And he said Booker's Spanish was so bad, he wasn't even sure what he was saying. It was that bad. And I said, look, he probably does not speak Spanish at all. He's probably been practicing an answer in Spanish for a couple weeks. So which leads me to believe that in order for him to practice that answer in Spanish, he had to know the question was coming beforehand. Just saying. CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, wants Democratic debate moderators to ask about the Muslim ban. Here's something. I don't care what CARE wants. And then, of course, we had the Supreme Court decision about the census question. And these supposedly 9 wise people come and say it's predictable that non-citizens will act unlawfully. That's true. Really, guys? You really think so? Non-citizens will act unlawfully? They're here illegally. Well, I mean, you go figure. Oh, I can't take it. I can't. Here's something for
Remember,
you.
the only thing these corrupt politicians will understand is an earth.
This is our president. And this is from Hill TV. And it's why Latinos back Donald Trump. And they do. The Hispanic Americans will never, ever willingly, well, some will, decide that it's a good idea to go to be living on the Democratic plantation. But listen to our president just the same. Here you go.
Earthquake at the ballot box. That's what they will understand, and they're going to see it. We did it once, and now we will do it again, and this time we're going to finish the job.
There you go. So, to get back to the question, Hispanic Americans will overtake African Americans as the second largest demographic group in the 2020 election. That is bad news for Democrats who are convinced that they are entitled to these millions of minority voters. Democrats just cannot understand why so many Latinos, especially in important battleground states such as Florida, continue to line up firmly behind President Trump. The thought simply terrifies them, as it should. Oh. Well, it's true. Madison Gessiato, an opinion contributor, wrote this for The Hill. And this is good stuff. Now, even more frightening for Democrats is the sheer ineffectiveness of their minority outreach strategy of extolling the virtues of illegal immigration and speaking in Spanish. As President Trump has pointed out, Hispanic Americans are certainly no more enamored with an unsecured border and illegal immigrants evading deportation orders than other Americans are. However, that is not how Democratic minority outreach works. It is all about bringing up the identity group in question, then harping on some issues that focus group testing suggests are important. It is an awkward fit for Latinos who, contrary to the implications of Democratic messaging, are a highly diverse and mostly middle-income sector of the population. The old school strategy of race pandering is so toxic that even the leading Democratic candidate is wary of being associated with it. Joe, I don't know if I'm alive, Biden, has been running from minority outreach in the Democrats' mold as quickly as he can. He decided to skip out on a major liberal Hispanic conference that other Democratic candidates attended. Biden is trying desperately to present a colorblind campaign face, even going so far as to avoid using the words Hispanic and Latino in speeches. The strategy is backfiring. Democrats are hopelessly wedded to identity politics, and Biden is getting nothing but backlash from the liberal base for not playing along. The left wing is accusing him of engaging in a denial of the unique experience of being Latino in this country. This predicament is a perfect illustration of the unwinnable corner Democrats have placed themselves into with their race pandering. If Biden caves to the identity activist core of his party, he risks alienating moderates. If he does not, he risks alienating the radicals who will decide the Democratic nomination. Given his penchant for putting his foot in his mouth, the situation will likely get worse for him. On the other hand, President Trump has not forgotten the vital role that Hispanic conservatives in Florida played in delivering his 2016 victory. That is why Miami is the natural place to kick off the Latinos for Trump coalition for his campaign. The coalition formally launches this week with an event featuring Florida Lieutenant Governor Jeanette Nunez, who will host Vice President Mike Pence and other senior administration officials. Unlike Democrats, Republicans offer Hispanic voters in Florida and around the country real value. Trump has delivered on the issues that Latinos, like most Americans, actually care about. These are better job choices, more money in their pockets, and confidence in our national strength both at home and abroad. Latinos do not care whether Trump has met with liberal activists who want affirmation of their experience as a minority group in this country. They do care about what he has done to improve their lives. Trump has been an ally of Hispanics beyond our borders as well. Whereas President Obama, willing to reward and normalize relations with the Cuban Communist government and turned a blind eye to the brutal pillaging of the Venezuelan people by Nicolas Maduro, Trump has taken a forceful stand against both of these repressive regimes, denying their illegitimate rulers critical access to the world markets and pledging American support for their citizens who are bravely struggling to take back their own freedom. Democrats are right to be afraid. Trump could not possibly have secured the Republican nomination and the White House without the support of millions of Hispanic Americans. In 2020, with Florida once again at the center of the Electoral College fight, their support will be an even greater factor. As Trump takes them seriously, Democrats will be shocked to find how receptive Hispanic Americans will be to the message of the return of greatness, especially compared to the pandering of their own candidates. There you go. Now, Madison Gessiato is an attorney and a commentator who serves at the advisory board of the Donald Trump campaign. She was an inauguration spokesperson and former Miss Ohio. And if you want to get a hold of her on Twitter, you can get a hold of her at Madison Gessiotto, Gesiotto. There you go. That's why. And I think those are legitimate reasons. Oh man, running out of time here. What else we got here? Hey, you want to know what the merger of MSDNC, the merger of MSNBC and the Democrats? You want to know what the real state TV looks like? Daniel Greenfield is going to tell you. In March, the DNC boss Tom Perez claimed that Fox News could not be trusted to host a fair and neutral debate because of the inappropriate relationship between President Trump and the news network. In a Fox News interview, Perez accused it of having put the thumb on the scale. And then the DNC awarded the first Democrat debate to MSNBC and NBC News. Scale meet thumb. So Perez had claimed that Fox News had pierced that line between editorial and your Sean Hannity shows. The DNC had decided to pierce the line between editorial and conspiracy theories by accepting NBC's Rachel Maddow, who I like to refer to as Pat because I don't know what it is, as one of the MSNBC moderators alongside its news anchors. Now Maddow, Pat, had previously become the public face of PMSNBC, remaking it with disastrous results. In the Trump era, the formerly lightweight leftist pundit was reinvented as an obsessive conspiracy theorist. Maddow had barely paid attention to Russia before. Now her show was built around finding a nexus between Trump and Russia, while postulating that everything Trump did was done on Vladimir Putin's orders. On one show, she suggested that maybe the American presidency right now is the product of collusion between the Russian intelligence services and an American campaign. During the Democrat showdown, she implied that Trump was trying to destroy the country on Putin's orders. If Russia did get a U.S. president to act on behalf against the United States, if you're Russia, what else would you want that president to do? At this point, she breathlessly fulminated. The government is not just a vehicle that aspires to a halt. Each passing day pours more sugar in the gas tank, making it harder and harder for this thing to ever get running again. This was the unhinged conspiracy theorist from whom DNC thought should be moderating a debate. No, I don't think so. We will decline that. I can't stand it. Yeah, I'm not answering it. I don't care. So, Perez, the DNC's president, justified this Fox News ban based on a hit piece by Jane Mayer that appeared in the New Yorker. Mayer was a regular on MSNBC and appeared on lefty news networks to promote a very hit piece that had been cited by Perez. Now, Mayer also appeared on Maddow's show, even though the New York Times had banned its reporters from the conspiracy show. Some of Mayer's biggest hits were done in collaboration with Ronan Farrow. The best known of these was a disastrous story about a second accuser targeting Justice Kavanaugh. Mayer went on to NBC to discuss the allegations, and Farrow's original home had been MSNBC. His failed MSNBC show had been seen as part of the failed Maddowization of the lefty news network. But these days, there's an MSNBCization of the DNC. Well, it's true. So, beyond Maddow, the DNC boss citing an attack on journalist standards of Fox News by one of her guests as a basis for a ban, the rise of the MSDNC occasioned protests from other news channels. CBS, CNN, ABC, Fox, and even C-SPAN are protesting a sweetheart deal between MSNBC and the DNC that grants the lefty news channel exclusive live rights to the weekend party convention in South Carolina. Other news networks face an embargo on video coverage. South Carolina Dems are claiming that MSNBC will provide the 2020 candidates with more coverage. But that doesn't hold up for C-SPAN. C-SPAN is a nonprofit that practically exists to broadcast political speeches. The Dems aren't barring C-SPAN because they're worried that their candidate speeches won't be aired and accessible. They're doing it because MSNBC has become the house news network of the Democrats. Now, according to MSNBC, coverage of the event will be Al Sharpton and Joy Reid. Both Sharpton and Reid have an ugly history of anti-Semitism and other forms of bigotry. While Tom Perez has taken shots at Sean Hannity, he's quite comfortable with Sharpton, a bigot who had declared, "We taught philosophy and astrology and mathematics before Socrates and them Greek homos ever got around to it." That's a quote. And here's another quote. "And if the Jews want to get on it, tell them to pin their yarmulkes back and come over to my house." And that's a quote. Now that's acceptable to the DNC. But Fox News anchors like Brett Baier and Chris Wallace aren't. Beyond the bigotry, Sharpton was a former presidential candidate who had his own DNC speaking slot. He's also a Democratic kingmaker with presidential candidates, routinely lining up to get his endorsement. At his National Action Network conference, he welcomed 2020 Dem contenders to make their pitch. Now, Dems and their MSNBC allies have attacked Fox News as state TV over the friendliness of some of their editorial shows and other non-anchors to President Trump. But the Democrats given MSNBC an exclusive while locking out C-SPAN to broadcast a party event anchored by a party activist is state TV. And the collusion between MSNBC and DNC gets even uglier. Yesterday I received a call from Daphne Linzer, who serves as managing editor of MSNBC Politics. Daphne's conduct during the call was highly inappropriate and unethical. So what was the purpose of her call? She called me to bully me on behalf of the DNC. Yashar Ali, a freelance reporter, tweeted. Ali had picked up a scoop about the primary debate dates. After he tried confirming the dates with the DNC, he received a call from Daphne Linzer. Linzer, the managing politics editor for MSNBC and NBC, had gotten a call from the DNC and took a menacing tone demanding that Ali hold the story until the DNC was ready. He says, I realized that Daphne Linzer, the head of all political coverage for NBC News and NBC, wasn't calling to advocate for our network. She was calling to advocate the DNC's position. She wanted me to wait so they could call state party leaders, Ali tweeted. I couldn't believe what she was saying. Again, it was fine for me to print the story an hour later, beat her own network by 3 hours. She just wanted to let the DNC inform state party leaders. Why the hell did she care? He asked. The answer becomes much more apparent if you think of the MSNBC and DNC leadership teams as interchangeable figures with the same goals, but different functions under an umbrella organization. So DNC boss Tom Perez accused Fox News of an inappropriate relationship with Trump. NBC is one long inappropriate DNC relationship interspersed with conspiracy theories and incontinence ads. Well, it is. So now but call it what you will. State TV is here, and at the DNC, MSNBC always has an exclusive. Always. Well, it's true. But what do you think about that? Are you concerned about that? Did you really think of anything else different? I didn't. Anyways, hey, look. Here at Contra Radio Network, on the Jeffers Brief, Two Crazy Guys, the Dope Farm Report, the Patriot Alliance, and other great shows, Prepping 2.0, we need your help. I'm asking you for $2 a month. $2 a month. That's what I'm asking you guys. Come on. Okay, I'm asking you for, if it might cost you 1 cup of McDonald's coffee per month. Give us the support. Go to contrarionetwork.podbean.com and become a $2 a month supporter. That's asking $2. Is it really that much? I'm asking for $2. Many of you, I should say many, a handful of you have answered the call to action, and I really appreciate it. Some of you have given more than $2, and I really, really appreciate it. I'm humbled by it. But again, for the rest of you, I mean, we have quite a few. Now, in the coming months, CRN is going to be pushing in a bit, in a more general direction. For example, if you listen to the Prepper Guy, if you listen to Conservative Underground, if you listen to Two Crazy Guys, if you listen to Prepping 2.0, if you listen to the Dope Farm Report, if you listen to the Patriot Alliance, we are kind of pushing in a general direction. What I'd like to see, what we're probably going to try and work out, is we're going to combine forces a little bit more to become more and make a bigger push. Now, my thing is this. If you want to hear some subjects that we're not talking about, you got to let me know. Email me, contraradio@live.com. contraradio@live.com. Email me. Tell me what you want to hear. We'll talk about it. But you got to let me know. My crystal ball doesn't work. My ESP doesn't work. I can't read minds. What I'm asking is, get involved a little bit. Help us get the word out. Help us help you. I know, it's a line from Jerry Maguire, but it's true. Help us to help you. We need that. We need your help. All right, that's it for this week. I am John Jeffers, your host here on the Jeffers Brief. Please Check out Contra Radio Network. Tell your friends and family about it, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again.